Hi, hey, hello, and welcome to the third mock draft episode of a Colts podcast. My name's Brandon, and I'm joined here by your co-host, my best friend, Andrew Moore. It's the second year we'll be streaming live this Friday. Probably going to start that stream at 6:30 Eastern, about a half an hour before the show starts. We're going to regret it like we did last year. And wait another 45 minutes for the first pick. But, so maybe we'll push it back to 7. We'll talk about it. We'll see. But hello, Andrew, my pal, my friend. How's your week been? Has it been 2 weeks? Feels like it's been 2 weeks. My goodness.
It's been less than a week because it's been about a week. But I'm doing great, man. The draft is here. The months of pouring through film, looking at 40 times, looking at verticals, it's all come to a conclusion. Now it's time for the teams to make their picks. And for the Indianapolis Colts, they've got a lot of holes to fill. No first round pick, but they should need to add a receiver. There's a hole at tight end with the WWJD retirement. There can be depth added all along the defense and on the offensive line. Colts have a lot of holes to fill, and it's going to be an exciting 3 days starting tomorrow night, just seeing what happens. So I'm excited to talk some prospects and release our mock draft tonight.
Absolutely. And of course, Andrew, we want everybody to go follow us on all of our socials at a Colts podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Hiring some interns this summer. We're going to have a TikTok. No idea. I mean, I can't wait to see them try to fumble to put videos together on TikTok. That's going to be very entertaining for me. It's also going to be very convenient having some little production minion assistants. So that'll be fun for me. Also, make sure to go follow or go check out Last Chance, before tomorrow starts, the Indy Draft Guide. Well, before Friday, really, in regards to the Colts. But awesome little collection of information on players, especially in positions pertaining to what we think the Colts might be looking for this year in the draft. Use the promo code DRAFT to save $1, which, by the way, it's like over 10% off. It's a hell of a deal.
You're not wrong.
Hell of a deal. Andrew, so like you said, we both, just grueling over film in 40 times.
Both of us
writing articles upon articles. Oh yeah. Hard work I've been putting in. My favorite time of year, I'll be honest. Okay. First year, last 2 years, it felt like it helps having a first pick. But first year, I definitely put a lot of work in, even though I was working because it was our first one. I was excited. I had never entrenched myself in the draft before. Last year, I didn't have a job, so plenty of time to do all this, right? This year, no first round pick, full-time job again. And, I didn't put the effort into it that I have in the past. But I think I made some good picks. I think I won't be too far off. Use my resources wisely. I'm sure Andrew will do a slightly better job than me today. That is fair. The Colts can bypass the QB position this year because they got Ryan and Ellinger. They need to draft by need. We'll see. It's not really the motto of a Chris Ballard. Andrew, I'm going to get this out of the way up front before we even start the first round mock. One of my first thoughts when I started to watch with the next pick today, and I won't go too far, was, with the way Jim Irsay's been, with the way, we went after Matt Ryan, the way the free agency has felt, maybe somehow we make a splash and we lose picks, but we get in the first round for somebody, somehow, some way. After watching with the next pick, I'm not feeling that way. I think Chris Ballard still wants them picks.
Yeah, he wants them picks. He wants more shots at the dartboard. And looking at this, because of this draft class specifically, there's a lot of guys. There really isn't that much fall off between the guys that you can get at pick 20 to pick 45.
Right.
This class is really lacking in like top end elite talent, but it's got a lot of depth to it because a lot of that's because of the extra year afforded to these guys because of COVID, the extra year of eligibility. There's a lot of guys that are draft eligible this year. So with a huge class comes a lot of different options. You can find good players all throughout the draft. And that's why I think maybe not the second round, because I mean the Colts are still wanting to grab a premium player and they're in a spot to do that with their position in the second round. But maybe the third round, the fourth round, you could see possible trade backs in that area so the Colts can acquire more picks in the fourth, fifth, sixth round, so that way they can get more shots at that dartboard, like Chris Ballard always says. But I mean, we'll talk about with the next pick here in a little bit. But yeah, I'm glad you did bring this up because I do think trading back. We don't have any trade backs in our mock draft because they're just too hard to predict. But I would almost guarantee there's going to be a trade back at least once this weekend. The Colts have 7 picks. By the end of the weekend, they're going to make more than 7 selections.
Maybe 9 to 10. Honest God. I mean, could be. And then definitely we'll pick up, just like anybody else would, some undrafted free agents. And one of those players will probably end up on the team. Tends to happen. So we're going to start out, though, with the 2022. And I got Colts mock up right now, but we're going to go through round 1 of tomorrow night's draft and make our predictions. Again, like Andrew said, we'll be making no trade predictions because it's just too insane. And again, I just don't have the time nor the desire to predict trades. I mean, geez, I already struggled enough. Like I'm like looking at this Kansas City 29, Kansas City 30 picks, and I'm like, what are they? What do you do in that situation? You know what I mean? I'll bring that up when we get down to it a little more. But Andrew, let's get started. I think you've gotten to pick first every year. No, first year I picked first because he gave me the benefit of the doubt. I had never done anything like this before, but I believe the last 2 years, you have won the coin toss and you have gotten to go first. I just would like to offer up a word of advice to you before we begin.
Hey, and also, don't be the guy that takes the shit in the porta potties. All right, I went in there, I about threw up. All right, have a little bit more.
Have some decency. Don't be the guy in the porta potty.
Andrew, such a classic.
And again, you gave me some shit here. We'll take a little more time on these first few picks. You gave me some shit here looking at the PFF big board and their draft ideas here. You're going with a guy, and I'll let you announce him here, but this guy on Pro Football Focus is not ranked in the top 10 available draft picks. Is you go ahead and announce your pick, and I have questions.
So I'm going with the guy that maybe a couple weeks ago people didn't necessarily. I mean, he's been in the running for the number 1 pick, but as we've gotten closer, it seems like this is the consensus favorite. Going with edge, Trayvon Walker from Georgia to the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 1. He's a very long freak athlete. Didn't produce much in college, but Trent Baalke, the GM for the Jaguars, he likes those long athletic freaks. So we've been talking about Aiden Hutchinson all off season about him going number 1 to Jacksonville, but in the end, I think Trent Baalke is going to get his way, and Walker will be a Jacksonville Jaguar tomorrow night.
Is that the talk of the town? Is Trayvon Walker? I mean, like, are you getting this from just intuition? I mean, or are we hearing some things?
I'm getting it from people that I've talked to, and the betting odds reflect it. Over the past couple days, Trayvon Walker has gone from plus 175 to minus 300 as the odds-on betting favorite for the number 1 pick.
Do we have in the indie draft guide? Do we have? Because I know that obviously we don't have any top picks. The indie draft guide is a little more pointed at, Colts availability and whatnot. Do we have these guys ranked, these top guys ranked in the indie draft
so
guide?
we have Trayvon Walker as our 5th rated edge rusher here, but again, it's what Trent Baalke likes, the GM for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He likes those long athletic freaks. Okay. And that's what Trayvon Walker is. So I think just hearing from what I'm hearing from people around the league and watching the betting lines, I think Walker's going number 1 tomorrow night.
It's so awesome to be able to we're watching the betting lines on who's going to get picked at this position. That makes things very entertaining. Heavy betting favorite at number 1 says Stats Matt, as well as Colts Nation 365 podcast apparently. So hello to you.
Pick number 2, Brandon.
Number 2, I believe in this situation, I think probably we've been saying this all off season as well. There's not a lot of high end quarterbacks in this draft at all, right? I don't think we have one in the top 10, not even in the top 15. So, I think that the next big, popular name position, although this draft is very wide receiver deep, is going to be edge rusher. So I went with an edge rusher as well, and Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. Went with the higher ranked guy that I think around the combine we probably would have been predicting would have gone number 1.
Aiden Hutchinson is an absolute baller. I mean, I think he had 14 sacks last year with Michigan. He's a local guy. He's a guy that has that mentality of going and biting your kneecaps off that Dan Campbell loves. He's going to fit in very well in Detroit, and I think he'll be a starter for them for the next 10 to 12 years.
All right, Andrew. Doesn't look good for Quiddy Pay, that guy getting 14 sacks last year. I assume a very similar system.
Similar system, asked to do different things.
Sure. Okay. That's fair. That's a good point. Let's go number 3, Houston.
Houston could go quite a different ways. I've seen edge rusher. I've seen offensive tackle. In my opinion, I think they go offensive tackle. They've got Laramie Tunsil on one side. They need another guy for the other side, or in case they let go of Laramie Tunsil down the road. So I'm going with Akeem. His name's kind of hard to pronounce. Akeem Ekwonu out of NC State. Ekwonu is a lot of people think he is the best tackle in this draft. Me personally, I'd probably go with the slight edge to Evan Neal, but I think Ekwonu can play inside, he can play outside. You can put him all over the offensive line, so he's going to have great versatility for that Texans team that really needs help all across the board.
Yep. And I was interested to see where they'd go as well, because that just feels like a team with a lot of needs. But they seem to believe in their quarterback, so why not protect him? I wish the Jets would do that same thing with pick number 4. Just looking at rankings, looking at different mock drafts, and obviously watching all the tape that I've watched, it's hard to turn down players with talent. I think this is maybe a best available here. And you called it a shocker, but I'm a ranking slave, as put by the league years ago. I'm going with a cornerback from DBU, LSU, Derek Stingley Jr. And I looked. Honest to God, I was thinking offensive tackle. I was torn. I wanted to go maybe with an Evan Neal or a Charles Cross, but there's something about those DBs from LSU. It's hard to turn them down, especially one of the top tier ones.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't mind Derek Stingley Jr. I think he's a great cornerback. I said interesting because this whole draft process, it seems like the Jets have been enamored with the other top cornerback in Sauce Gardner the entire process. So I think Derek Stingley Jr. is a great prospect. I think he's going to be one hell of a talent in the league. I just said it was interesting because I think if they do go cornerback, it'll probably be Sauce Gardner.
So you're hearing Sauce.
I am hearing Sauce.
All right. Well, you know what? People make mistakes. Maybe I did. We'll find out. Andrew, pick number 5.
Pick number 5, the New York Giants. They need help along that offensive line. I was torn. I see a lot of people going Charles Cross. This is where I kind of went with my personal rankings, and I put Evan Neal out of Alabama as the pick there at number 5. A guy, again, that can play right tackle or left tackle. He's got experience at guard. He can really do it all, and he's just a massive human being. He's very fit. He's very strong. I think he was one of I think he was the top tackle in this class, and I think the Giants get a good one to pair on the opposite side of Andrew Thomas.
And a big shout out, hello to Miss Heidi. We love you.
What's up, Heidi?
I tweeted at her like 5 minutes before the show because she was liking some stuff. I was like, "Is Heidi going to show up in the comments today?" And there she is. So I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Giants to just draft a quarterback either. I don't think there's a lot of big brain going on up there right now.
I mean, they've got Brian Dable now, who was the offensive coordinator for the Bills, now coming to the Giants. I think I haven't heard any quarterback stuff out of the Giants.
I know. Well, I mean, because Daniel Jones is their quarterback. The owner said it. So
I think so. I think he'll be the quarterback at least this year.
At least I'd give him 1 year. I think he's got 1 year shot here to turn things around. And then I kind of, who's Carolina need to protect, but I mean, you still, whoever's back there, you want to protect the quarterback. Carolina, I have offensive tackle Charles Cross, Mississippi State, like you said, Evan Neal, Charles Cross, a lot of back and forth there. They're both SEC, correct? Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, SEC tackles. So those are the guys that you want playing your big positions defensively or on the offensive line.
Yeah, Charles Cross, great pick. The Panthers don't have a second or third round pick this year, so they've got to make this one count. And that offensive line is just abysmal. I mean, I remember I'm talking to the guys from the 4-Man Rush podcast, huge Carolina Panthers podcast, and they don't necessarily like the quarterback situation. I think they think offensive line is the bigger priority. Go get a guy that can be a starter for 10 plus years in Charles Cross.
Yeah, and if you can't get a guy this year to start at quarterback, you might as well protect the guy you got.
Right.
You know what I mean? Why not? Andrew, pick 7, another Giants pick.
Another Giants pick. If we were doing trade backs, I'd probably suggest or probably trade this one back. I think the Giants are interested in moving back in the draft. Since we're not doing that, I'm going to go with the other top cornerback on the board, Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati. He's going to go to the New York Giants. I think it's a great fit. He's a guy that can step in and be the number 1 corner from day one, especially with talks that James Bradbury, it could be on the move from the Giants. Sauce Gardner would be a really good pick for that secondary.
If you had to guess who would trade up for that spot, who would it be?
I think it would probably be a team that thinks Atlanta would take a quarterback. So I would say, I mean, I already predicted that New Orleans would possibly trade up for a quarterback. Okay. Maybe Houston. Maybe Houston tries to trade up and get a quarterback. I would say one of those two.
New Orleans would have a ways to go, but I think New Orleans is sitting in a spot where they're not at much risk of missing out on a quarterback either. Mm-hmm. I think they've got a possibility there, but interesting idea. And then at number 8, I'll tell you, I did want to go quarterback here because I don't think Marcus Mariota is the guy to replace Matt Ryan. However, I kind of talked to you about this one. I said, what do you think Atlanta does? You said, I think they should go get a guy outside. So that's what I did. I went with wide receiver Drake London, USC. They're probably going to have another bad year, realistically. I mean, you got to look at it and go, do we have a high chance of success this year, especially after we lost the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes and lost Matt Ryan because of it? Probably not. And there's some higher quality quarterback talent going to be in the draft next year. So I think they play a patient hand here, go with a wide receiver.
Yeah, I really like this pick. Drake London, I think, is the top wide receiver in this class. He instantly makes the Falcons better. He instantly becomes their number 1 wide receiver because if you don't count Drake London, the Falcons' number 1 wide receiver is their running back in Cordell Patterson. So, yeah, love this pick. London will have an instant impact there in Atlanta.
And number 9, the Seattle Seahawks. Did not expect to see them drafting this high this year, this time last year.
Yeah, so trading into the first round or getting Denver's first round pick here at number 9. So Seattle is going to take some edge rush with Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, a guy that many thought was going to be the top pick in this year's draft in the beginning of the college football season. He's kind of slipped a little bit, but I think he would be a great fit in Seattle in a Pete Carroll defense where you can kind of attack. He can be used in different areas all along the defensive line. I think Thibodeau is going to be a good player.
And number 10, the Jets again. I had 2 Jets picks. What an honor. You gotta. We're still not protecting the quarterback here, but we are giving the guy to somebody to throw to. Wide receiver Jameson Williams out of Alabama. They drafted offensive line last year after they drafted for Zach Wilson. So I mean, yeah, I think Chris Ballard drafts an offensive lineman in this spot if he's the Jets, but I don't think the Jets will do it. I think they're going to go wide receiver because like we've talked about all between when free agency kicked off and when we started to dig in the draft, that it's a wide receiver draft if not anything else.
Jameson Williams is a really good player, and when you think about the weapons that Zach Wilson has, it's not much to brag about. So you get Jameson Williams in there, you get Zach Wilson some help on the outside. It's a good pick.
Well, and you probably see Williams go earlier had he not torn his ACL in the national championship game as well, you think?
Maybe a little bit, but because he is so far ahead on his recovery, I don't think it's really impacting him much. Okay. Yeah, I still think that Drake London is the number 1 wide receiver, even if Williams is healthy.
Gotcha. All right, pick number 11, Washington Commanders. The first ever drafted commander. Andrew, that's a lot of pressure.
First ever commander, and I'm going with one of my favorite guys in this entire draft, Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame. Guy's 6'4", 220 pounds, but he can play in the box. He can play as a deep safety. He's got great coverage skills. He's a very, very good all-around player, a guy that you can use in a Derwin James type role. So I think he's going to be great for a Washington defense that took a step back last year. But Landon Collins is out. You put Kyle Hamilton in, I think that's an instant upgrade for that defense.
Minnesota, I was torn on what to do. I think wide receiver was another one I was looking at. I just didn't know if anybody else was top 12 material at the time, but also I know how much that team loves their secondary. So I have Minnesota going after cornerback Trent McDuffie from Washington.
McDuffie's a good pick. He's a long corner. I would put him probably as my 3rd best corner behind Stingley and Sauce Gardner. And when you think about it, Minnesota doesn't have, I mean, they've young guys on the perimeter, but outside of Patrick Peterson, but they haven't lived up to the hype. And you get a guy like McDuffie in there to learn from Peterson. I think that would be a good move for them.
All right. And
pick 13.
Houston again. Houston. Andrew, wow, we're on this thing this year. These picks. Andrew, 13, another Houston pick for you.
So Houston doesn't have a lot of pass rush. They haven't since J.J. Watt left, so I'm going to give them one of the best pass rushers in this draft, Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State, a guy that has really shown up on the scene as being a very athletic freak and a guy that's got a lot of bend. You can see him being on the outside there in Houston, giving them some firepower on the defensive line.
And I would say Florida State, although not a powerhouse the last few years, is still outside of the SEC, a strong football program that produces some good football players. Pick 14, Baltimore. Is this one that you raised an eyebrow at? It is one you raised an eyebrow at. Okay, well, hey, Baltimore, defensive football team, nasty go beat them up football team. Do I think, they need somebody for their quarterback to throw football to? Probably. But that's just not what that team's known for. I think they're going edge. George Karlaftis from
Karlaftis. Yep.
Karlaftis. Yeah, of course.
From your favorite college football team. Is that right?
Amen.
Yeah, this one did surprise me a little bit. I mean, he's a good player. I just don't think he would go this high. I'm thinking more 20s to early 30s that this guy's going to go. Personally, I probably would have picked a tackle here to go across from Ronnie Staley to help protect Lamar Jackson a little bit.
That guy doesn't need protected.
I mean, he runs around a lot and gets hit quite a bit. I mean, he was out for the end of the year. Maybe you get some protection for him. But hey, I mean, Karlaftis is a decent player. He's not flashy by any means, but he's going to be a solid pro.
And pick 15, Philadelphia Eagles, Andrew.
See, I really like this pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. I went wide receiver Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. I think he fits very well with Devontae Smith. You give Jalen Hurts another weapon because obviously Jalen Reagor has not panned out there in Philadelphia. But then you've got Devontae Smith on one side, Garrett Wilson on the other. Garrett Wilson is a guy that just is speed, shifty, a guy that can catch everything. He's always going to be there to make the play. It gives a very good threat for this Philadelphia team that's in desperate need of playmakers.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not surprised that Sirianni's getting himself another offensive player either. You know what I mean?
There you go. I mean, they did add Zach Pascal, but again, yeah. Zach Pascal's probably a third wide receiver.
Zach Pascal he's Zach Pascal. You know, nice to have on the team, but he's not a game changer by any means.
Right.
Where are we at? 16, New Orleans. And if I would have told you, Andrew, that the first quarterback in the draft this year was going to come from Liberty, you know what I mean? We'd have probably said I was nuts, but of course, I'm the first one to pull the trigger on a quarterback for a team that needs a quarterback. And I think Malik Willis is going to be the pick for the New Orleans Saints.
I like this pick for the Saints because he can sit behind Jameis Winston I think Jameis Winston signed like a 2-year deal, if I'm not mistaken, with the Saints. If I am, stats, Matt, let me know.
Stats.
But that would allow Malik Willis to sit for a couple years and get used to the NFL game, get used to an NFL offense before you hand over the reins to him. So, like I said, with the move that New Orleans made with Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, it would shock me if they didn't take a quarterback. So, and if they are, I mean, Malik Willis is arguably the number one quarterback in this class.
Do you think that's a dumpster fire of a situation right now, New Orleans Saints? Do you think this is the fall of the Saints?
I wouldn't say a dumpster fire because, I mean, they still have plenty of talent. I mean, you got...
Could be the start of a dumpster fire.
It could be the start depending on their quarterback situation, depending on what Michael Thomas does. I mean, he's supposed to be back. They still have Cam Jordan. They still have Marshawn Lattimore. They still have some really good talent on that team. Alvin Kamara is still there.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of like you need to figure out the quarterback situation, and you don't have your offensive guru and Sean Payton there anymore. So we'll see.
Do you think there's a possibility that Sean Payton was pushed out? I haven't talked about this.
No, I don't think he was pushed out. I do think that not having Drew Brees there anymore made it a lot easier for Sean Payton to leave.
Sure.
Do I think Sean Payton is done coaching? No, I do not. I think if that Dallas Cowboys job becomes open here in the next year or two, you're going to see Sean Payton as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Indianapolis Colts, maybe. I don't know. Maybe Frank Williams. Who knows?
I don't want Sean Payton in a Colts gear.
Yeah, I know you're a big time Sean Payton hater. That's fine. That's fine. If you watch this movie on Netflix, good stuff. Where are we? You're pick 17.
Pick 17.
Chargers. Off. Oh, Andrew, your pick.
Yeah, I loved that this guy fell to 17. Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa, a mean, nasty dude. That in the Senior Bowl, you saw him just throwing guys around. So this gives the Chargers a guy opposite of Rashawn Slater, with the Chargers to protect Justin Herbert for many years to come. Stats Matt coming in clutch here, saying Jameis is a 2-year deal with a void year. So again, that allows Malik Willis at least 1 year to learn behind Jameis before he possibly takes over the reins.
And on to pick 18, another Philadelphia Eagles pick. I've got linebacker Devin Lloyd out of Utah. Andrew,
Devin Lloyd. I've seen you don't know much about Devin Lloyd.
Hey, maybe no better all around linebacker in the class.
Devin Lloyd reminds me a lot of Darius Leonard. Can move sideline to sideline, very fast linebacker, great tackler. And I'm not sure, you probably didn't watch the combine, but they had Giovanni the podcaster, who we love. They had him on NFL Network, and he said, "Howie, for the love of God, get us a linebacker." So you answer the prayers, you get the Philadelphia Eagles a linebacker.
Hey, people, tweet at Gio. Let him know I did this for him. Hey, earned a 90.2 grade from PFF. It's pretty good.
You and PFF, man.
You know what? Let's face it.
Listen, it's not the Bible. It's not the Bible.
Not the Bible, but they got a lot of info. They got a lot of stats. Hey, and we're moving towards the analytics. If you're still listening to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, etc., we appreciate you and we love you. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, but also you're missing out if you're just not watching on YouTube. Watching them, but watch and listen. It's two different experiences.
There we go.
On to 19, another New Orleans pick. This first round is quite boring. Honest to God, this draft is boring. I mean, let's be realistic here.
I feel like there's not going to be as much movement towards the top, but I think once we get to the middle round, especially when we're doing our live stream, there's going to be some movement. So that'll be interesting for us. 19, New Orleans gets some more help on the offensive side of the ball. Chris Olave out of Ohio State, a guy that I think fits really well with Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, not necessarily the deep threat, the more underneath possession wide receiver that can get you a first down. Chris Olave has got that deep speed and that deep ability to win over the top. So I think him on one side, Thomas on the other, I think that's a really good pairing for the New Orleans Saints.
And then we move along to number 20, Pittsburgh. I referenced our good friend Josh Carney for this pick. He's thinking Willis, but if Willis is not there, he's still convinced the Pittsburgh Steelers are going quarterback. He writes about the Steelers. He's kind of our boss, you know, as we talked about last week. Josh Carney at Josh Carney, whatever, on Twitter. You know, he was on there last week. I don't need to throw it out there again. He's convinced quarterback, and he said, hey, wouldn't be surprised if we went quarterback Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. Andrew, will you? I watched a little bit of that. What's that show? Last Chance U.
Mm-hmm.
Is Ridder the quarterback from the Last Chance U? Did he end up transferring?
No, okay. Absolutely
he looks
not.
Just like the guy.
Desmond Ridder is one of the winningest quarterbacks in college football history, a 4-year starter at Cincinnati. And I think he lost a total of 5 games.
Do you know what show I'm talking about?
Last Chance U? Yeah.
The guy, him and Ridder look alike, right?
Well, I mean, a little bit. I wouldn't say that really, but I'll let you think that. I personally, I love Desmond Ridder. I've watched all of his film, and I think Desmond Ridder would be great in a Frank Reich offense. This was before Matt Ryan came, but I thought if the Colts don't get a quarterback and then he's there at 42, I would love for Desmond Ridder to be a Colt. He's got size, he's got athleticism, he's got the arm. He has some accuracy issues, but watching the film, I think they can be cleaned up. I mean, I thought that if you were going to pick a quarterback for the Steelers, you were going to go Kenny Pickett out of Pitt. But hey, Desmond Ridder, no problem with that pick.
Where's the Howell guy go? Sam Howell?
Sam Howell? Probably second round.
Okay. PFF ranked number 2. Big board 34, though. Who knows?
You and PFF, I swear.
That's just what I'm using right now, Andrew, for some assistance. All right, listen. I've been studying it like you have.
21. New England Patriots. I had some trouble with this one. This was probably the one that took me the longest because I thought maybe they could go offensive line, maybe they could go cornerback. But Bill Belichick loves linebackers, and a guy that is soaring up draft boards right now, linebacker Quay Walker out of Georgia. I think that he's going to go before Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. He's just a freak. Again, a freak athlete, can move sideline to sideline, and Bill Belichick loves those type of guys. He can play all over the place on the defense, so I went with Quay Walker.
All right, let's move it along here, Andrew. 22, Green Bay. I went wide receiver Sky Moore, Western Michigan, losing their best receiver. I just think this makes a lot of sense. Them go to wide receiver.
Sky Moore.
He'll
Honestly,
probably draft a quarterback.
honestly, I got Sky Moore. I could see him going to the Colts at 42. I really could. If he starts to slip a little bit, Sky Moore very well could be the pick. 'Cause that's who Zach put as his 42 42nd pick. We'll get to mine here in a bit, but I like Sky Moore's game. I think he would fit really nicely against next to Michael Pittman.
If he gets drafted to the Colts, you are obligated to buy a jersey?
Yeah, I should probably get a Kenny Moore jersey as well. Just get all the Moores.
That's a good call, but he's more the second, so.
I could get more and more the second. Anyways,
Ooh,
23, Arizona. This one was a little tough as well because I thought about wide receiver just because they lost Christian Kirk. But I ended up going with the massive 6'5", 340-pound monster that is Jordan Davis, defensive tackle out of Georgia, a guy that really clogs the middle of that defensive line. Remember, they lost Chandler Jones, so they do have some holes to fill along that defensive line. Not the same position, but Jordan Davis can be just a massive clog in the center of that line.
And 24, Dallas center, Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa.
Probably best center in this draft by far. Dallas needs to reinvest in that offensive line. They're getting old. They're getting injured.
Any position on that line, honest to God. I figured interior was where to start.
Outside of Zach Martin, probably because Zach Martin can still play. Tyron Smith can still play when he's healthy, but as many braces as he's had on him, he looks like a robotic man. Linderbaum's a good pick. 25, Buffalo Bills, again, another place that can go multiple different ways. Thought about the first running back coming off the board here, but I ended up going with offensive line and Zion Johnson out of Boston College, a guy that can play inside, protect Josh Allen a little bit because I know they've been shuffling some things along that offensive line, and I think you just got to protect the quarterback.
26, Tennessee, offensive tackle Tyler Smith from Tulsa. I just think they are getting to the point where that offensive line is also same with Dallas, just somewhere they need to start reinvesting in.
They haven't had a very good offensive line, and it obviously affected them in the playoff game. It affected Derrick Henry late.
Right.
So, yeah, I think offensive line would be a smart decision for Tennessee.
27, Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay, I went along the interior of the defensive line. As of right now, the Buccaneers have not re-signed Ndamukong Suh, so I'm going to go with defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt, another guy out of Georgia, guy that you can place next to Vita Vea. He is more of a three-tech, athletic defensive tackle. You place him next to the huge Vita Vea, that's going to be a hard middle to go through.
28, Green Bay again. I'm going linebacker Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. 2 Georgia picks in a row.
Why'd you pick this one? I was interested in to see why you picked a linebacker to the Packers. What was your thinking
Andrew,
behind that?
A lot of thought went into it. I just think they could afford to find somebody to help stop the run a little bit. And again, SEC, I'm a guy that the SEC weighs heavy on my opinion of players and how they're going to translate to the NFL, especially at defensive positions. So just think that's a defense that could use some help.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Nakobe Dean, I think is a fine linebacker. I think he's a first-round talent, and I was just curious to see because I don't see many mock drafts having linebackers go to Green Bay, but who knows? Number 29, Kansas City. This one was strictly on that. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu is not coming back to the Kansas City Chiefs. You need a safety, and the perfect safety is Dax Hill from Michigan, a guy that can play safety and cornerback. You can move him all over the defense, exactly how the Chiefs used Tyrann Mathieu. Dax Hill would come into that Tyrann Mathieu role, and I think play pretty well.
I got to be honest. I don't like my pick for Kansas City at 30 as well. I went to my boss, who's a big Kansas City fan. My whole company is Kansas City fans, it feels like. And he said, and I just couldn't go with it. He said that he's not ears to the ground quite like we are, but he's hearing rumblings of running back. I didn't love any of the running backs in this draft. So and the way they've been valued lately, especially Jonathan Taylor won the second round. You know what I mean? So I pushed off running back and I went wide receiver. I think he is still best available in my eyes here. Christian Watson, North Dakota State.
Love Christian Watson. Honestly, if he fell to 42, I'd really consider it for
any of these wide
Indianapolis.
receivers. If they fell to 42, we're like, yep, sign it.
Well, I mean, there are some that wouldn't fit necessarily, but Christian Watson is probably one of the four guys I would consider there at 42. Big guy, 6'4", 6'5". He ran a 4.3 40. He is gonna have to face a competition jump coming from North Dakota State. There is going to be, he's a little bit raw. He's probably going to need to sit, which the Chiefs can afford because they've got Mecole Hardman, they've got Juju Smith-Schuster, they have Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He can sit and learn before he kind of enters in that starting role.
31 Cincinnati. I actually went ahead and put my 32nd pick in before Andrew filled this one out because I knew the position I picked, the Cincinnati Bengals weren't going. So
yeah, so I went on the defensive side of the ball for Cincinnati. I really wanted to go offensive line again for Cincinnati, but I think this one fits as well. Cornerback Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson gives them some help in the secondary. I know they used a lot of their. They made quite a few moves in free agency to get some secondary help last year, but it's older secondary help on the outside. You get someone like Booth in there who can learn, develop, and eventually be a starting corner for you.
In my opinion, another great team to get DBs from. True, false?
True.
Yeah. So 32 Detroit, I went quarterback Kenny Pickett from Pitt. I believe Andrew thought maybe at 20 I'd go with Pickett, right? Is that what he told me?
I thought Pickett to the Steelers.
Pitt guy to the Pittsburgh Steelers makes sense to me. But again, I went with our guy Josh Carney. So Detroit, they can say whatever they want. I don't even know if they are saying it, but Jared Goff's not the guy. Jared Goff's not the guy.
Right. I think, honestly, this is a good pick, good value pick for the Detroit Lions. Kenny Pickett falling all the way to the bottom of the first round. He's playing inside of a dome, which definitely helps. I mean, if Pickett is there if Pickett is there at 32, I think the Lions would jump all over that.
My brain was still on Pittsburgh. I was like, Andrew, I've seen the stadium. It's not. I think everybody knows that's one of the worst outdoor stadiums to have to play in.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, I'd love to sit around and gawk at our draft picks, but let us know what you guys think in the comments of our mock draft. Compare it to your friends and yours, and enjoy it. But let's talk Colts mock draft. Andrew, this is obviously dream scenario. And we talked about it. This is no surprise. Your 42nd pick, Mr. I think. But I mean, we've talked about this guy already. We're crossing our fingers. We have a Kwity Paye situation on our hands in regards to a guy that could go higher, just falling and falling and falling, and our eyebrows getting higher and higher and higher. Hopes and dreams here, Andrew. But the 42nd pick, the Indianapolis Colts select.
42nd pick. This is who I put in my mock draft on the site. You guys can all read that. And he's this 42nd pick in ours as well. George Pickens, wide receiver out of Georgia. A guy that is 6'3", 200 pounds, runs a 4.47 40. He can win deep. He's a very physical wide receiver, a good run blocker, a guy that would fit perfectly with what the Colts want in their wide receiver. You get another big body wide receiver opposite of Michael Pittman. You put Pittman on one side for the underneath. You could use George Pickens on the one side underneath. He can also go deep, just like Pittman. They're both X wide receivers, but you can put them opposite of each other. No stats. Matt loves the pick. He's all on Pickens.
Loves the Pickens.
Loves the Pickens. Jesus.
You missed it. I mean, it was right there.
Pickens is the dream scenario, but the thing is, he could be available. There have been talks about his character, and over the past couple of days, I have been reaching out to people and trying to find what those were. I think we all know about when he was a freshman, the getting into a fight against the guy in the Georgia Tech game, being suspended for violating team rules. From what I've heard, a lot of the character issues were from when he was younger. He has matured, and
Yeah.
I've heard from somebody that I trust that the Colts passed him in their interviews. They don't have a problem with his character. They passed him in the interview process. So if
Andrew's got some sources, boys and girls. That's what I'm hearing right now.
if the Colts have passed him in the character interviews, I don't think it's any of a worry. I've heard that his personality is kind of like Darius Leonard's, where it's fiery, passionate. That could rub teams the wrong way. So we'll see. Matt, it's catching on, Brandon. Smoke screen season. It's here and it's here to stay. So Pickens at 42, Pickens at 42 would be the perfect pick for the Colts, and I could very well see it happening on Friday night.
And by the way, Stats Matt becomes Stats guest on Friday for the draft. So be on the lookout for the ability to see Matt on camera. I don't know what the guy sounds like. I barely know what he looks like. You know what I mean? So look forward to that opportunity to allow him to come fill my void on the show for a bit. Where are we at here? Pick 73. I went tight end, a position we've mentioned we need. And this guy is going to have to fall a little from what the Indy Draft Guide has him ranked, but Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. I think he fits in well with what we need at the position in regards to the ability to block, but also be, a reliable guy like a WWJD. True, false? Am I an idiot?
True. I think Jeremy Ruckert, if he does fall to 73, would be a great pick. I don't think he falls to 73, unfortunately.
I think we've got him in the 50s at tight end.
I think
for overall big board.
Yeah, I would think maybe high 50s, early 60s to mid 60s, somewhere in there. I think that's where Jeremy Ruckert's going to go. But big fan of his game. I put in my mock for this one, I did still do tight end, but I put Cade Otton out of Washington, a guy that is a typical Y tight end, someone that can play in line, really good blocker. But he can also be a guy that is dependable and catch a 9-yard pass on 3rd and 8, a guy with Velcro-like hands. So, but yeah, I would love Jeremy Ruckert in a Colts uniform.
If it makes you feel better, I didn't rely on PFF for most of these, Andrew. I actually relied on a guy named Andrew Moore. Andrew Moore at Andrew Moore SI. I went with the position that you assumed we would go at the spot we're in. And I tried to find a guy closer, a little higher, a little lower, see if we could find anybody in there. I did copy like one, but
that's fine.
Did what I had to do. Pick 122, Andrew.
Real quick on 73, definitely a position the Colts could trade back from. So keep an eye on that. 122, 4th round. I think this is where the Colts might go offensive tackle. They talked to Dennis Kelly. He came in for a visit, could be a reliable swing tackle option for the Colts. But if not, Matt Waletzko out of North Dakota, a guy that's 6'7", has, I think, 36-inch arms. The dude just has trees, fire hoses for arms. He's really good in the run game. You can see how comfortable he is, especially out in space, on screens when he's asked to pull. He's a little bit raw as far as pass protection goes, but I think we have him listed in the Indy Draft Guide as a moldable ball of clay, and that's really what he is. He has all of the physical tools to get everything done. I think he just needs some let's go. I think he has the physical traits to get everything done. Just needs NFL coaching. Needs to be in an NFL weight and conditioning program to bulk up a little bit. He could be a nice pick on day 3.
Listen to me. If you think I'm not gonna make T-shirts for Oh Dang Bro and Let's Go, if they're both drafted this year or last year, this year, you're wrong. Your boy is making shirts. Matt, let's go. That's amazing. 159. Andrew loves this pick. Interior defensive lineman Otito Ogbonia. UCLA.
Yeah, I do like the pick. I think in my mock draft, I went with Thomas Booker, interior defensive lineman out of Stanford, because I know the Colts have had a lot of interest in them. But I think this guy out of UCLA, Ogbania. I even have trouble pronouncing his last name. Real athletic guy, a guy that I think it can play either or 3 technique or 1 technique. So he offers position versatility within the interior of the defensive line.
And Andrew, real quick, you mentioned trading back from 73. I just thought about this. If the guy, I mean, the Colts have got a list of guys at 42 that they say if they're available, we're going to take them. We know that a little bit based off of with the next pick, but also just because that makes sense. If these guys are here, we're definitely going to pick one of them.
Mm-hmm.
What if none of them are? Is that a position? Do you think the Colts give up their highest draft pick to earn more, maybe around the 73, the 50, the 60 area?
I think if the right offer is there and they don't and they have a list of guys that they think will still be available at that position, and not someone like a George Pickens or somebody that they have seen fall and must get like Kwity Paye did last year, I think it's very possible that they do. I wouldn't rule it out for sure.
The end of the episode with the next pick. He's a 42. I take him. I take.
They've got quite a few guys there at 42 that I've heard they really like.
All right, we're at 179, I believe. Andrew, your pick. Sorry.
So we're going to double dip at wide receiver. Going to get wide receiver Bo Melton out of Rutgers, a guy that is a little bit smaller. I think he's like 5'10", but man, he's got blazing speed. 4.3 40. A guy that led Rutgers in receiving the last 3 years, so you know he's got talent. And this is on day 3. This is when the Colts typically take chances on guys that don't fit their height, weight, speed category. So Bo Melton is a little bit smaller, but I think what gives him that opportunity is just he was still, while he was still small, he was able to create quite a bit of separation in the Big Ten. And I think that means something. So Bo Melton, while he might not be a starter right away, he's a guy that can immediately come in and contribute on special teams, whether it's punt returning, kick returning. He can do both. A guy that can be a gunner if you want him to be on special teams. But yeah, I like what Stats Matt says right here. He says Melton is the wide receiver version of Hines, and that's true. He's a guy that's very shifty and can come in and play the slot behind Paris Campbell, and you could see him develop. But I know the Colts are very interested in Bo Melton on day 3.
I'll tell you right now, I wanted to go wide receiver at 159. You and I have talked about us double dipping there. I didn't find anyone that I felt fit the mold for the typical Chris Ballard pick here. So in that pick range, so it makes more sense to go there at 179, especially with a smaller guy. Pick 216. I go cornerback Isaac Taylor Stewart, USC. That one I just stole from Andrew. Because at this point, by the way, guys, I mean, we're just, pissing into the wind, and something's going to hit.
Isaac Taylor Stewart is a guy that I think fits what the Colts look for in their cornerbacks. He's 6'2", around 200 pounds, very long arms, guy that fights for the ball. He definitely needs to work on his coverage ability to be able to stick on a roster, but he does offer great special teams play. And again, these back end of the roster players, these later picks, we talk about it all the time. Their best asset is to be able to contribute on special teams. Correct. And Taylor Stewart was a guy that for all 4 years at USC played gunner on special teams. So he has a ton of experience there. He can come in and contribute immediately. He's got great speed to play special teams. So again, the Colts are probably going to pick a cornerback because you need plenty of cornerback depth. And a guy that can immediately contribute on special teams if he's not playing on defense is great to have.
Well, I forget what I was going to say. So
we'll go into the last. We'll go into
239
here. 239, 7th round. Colts still haven't addressed the interior of the offensive line. They do here, and it's a guy that I put on both my mock drafts, guy that I really like, Cordell Volson out of North Dakota State, a guy that played a lot of tackle at North Dakota State, but in the pros, I think he'll transition to guard or center. Got a mean streak about him. He's a big guy. He's really good against the run. He could use a little bit of help on pass protection, but since he'll be inside, it won't necessarily be as noticeable because you can kind of hide that on the inside. You pair him with Will Fries, I think you have two very reliable backup interior offensive linemen.
I was going to say, had we not gotten Gilmore, I think cornerback's going to be a little higher on this list.
If they don't get Gilmore, I think that Tariq Woolen could very well be in play for 42. But now with Gilmore there, with Faison and Isaiah Rodgers probably fighting it out for that other outside corner spot, I think you can push cornerback down the list a little bit.
All right. Anything else about the Colts draft, specifically Colts draft, Andrew, that you would like to mention? Keep in mind, it has been now one draft without Darius Leonard, Jonathan Taylor, make you poop out of your ears kind of pick. So Chris Ballard's due. Chris Ballard's due to surprise us with one that just pays off unnecessarily well. Quiddy Pay, we thought would be one. We were just surprised he fell where he did.
Mm-hmm.
We're still optimistic, but this could be another year where Chris Ballard makes us, hey.
I really think double dipping a wide receiver will be a thing. Another name to watch and another guy that I really like is Danny Gray out of SMU. Keep an eye on him. And don't be surprised if a linebacker is picked. Because yes, the Colts have
literally same time that Matt just sent this.
Don't be surprised because yes, you have Darius Leonard locked up long term. He's getting paid $20 million a year. Bobby Okereke is in the last year of his deal.
Yeah.
Do the Colts want to dish out that money to pay Bobby Okereke? He's a really good player, but I don't know if they're going to want to put that much money into off-ball linebackers. So
and I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot more, about 9 months from now, Andrew. But there's two things that can happen. Bobby can have a great year.
Mm-hmm.
4 things, I guess, because there's combinations of things that could happen. Bobby could have a great year and we could not draft anybody and he's got all the leverage. We could draft somebody and Bobby could have a bad year and Bobby could be gone. Or we can draft somebody, he could have a good year, but we have a little leverage, he has a little leverage, and we find a reasonable deal to be able to keep both.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I wouldn't rule out linebacker either. So it's going to be fun. A fun 2 days. There's definitely going to be some trade backs. There's going to be some surprising picks.
All right.
And we'll get it all covered.
Okay, moving along here to some other Colts news. Free agency tracker, Colts free agency update, if you will, I guess. Andrew forgot how to write outlines. Offensive tackle Julian Davenport goes to the Bears. Huge loss.
Surprise, surprise. Matt Eberflus is taking all of the best Colts players with him. Just kidding. Thank God he's not in a Colts uniform anymore. See ya, Julian Davenport.
Do you think Eberflus sitting here talking to the GM go, what are you doing? I was there. He's terrible. I mean, my third string guys are eating him alive. He's terrible. What? No, you're signing him.
Eberflus is probably signing off on the dude.
You're signing him.
I mean, he took Al-Qadim Muhammad with him.
Yeah, poor Justin Fields. Good luck. Yeah, we might talk about, we're not going to talk about the Ryan interview today. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. JT video, maybe next week.
We could talk about it on the live stream.
Stuff. Yeah, that's a good idea. I can't, but yeah, I'm truly going to be effed up. Hopefully they give me the good stuff. I understand. Let's see. With the next pick, Andrew, with the next pick recap, episode 3, good episode. This felt more like former versions of the show. This felt more like, and obviously it's draft week, so it always does feel a little more interesting this week. But one of the first things I noticed, and I mentioned it early in the show, Chris mentions basically right off the bat something about, I mean, he basically said it, and they didn't even hide it on the show. Something about getting more picks.
Right.
He said, let's get them picks. essentially is what he said. So, like you said, trading back's a high possibility. And my theory of Jim Irsay saying, hey, trying to trade up and get some more is out the window. I do think this is the one thing that you can not in a million years begin to argue that Chris Ballard's not an absolute phenomenal scouting talent and great GM in the draft.
Yeah, this is where the Colts shine, and it's not just Chris Ballard. It's Ed Dodds. It's all the area scouts. It's Morocco Brown, the director of college scouting. Matt Turpinning, the assistant director of college scouting. Mike Bloom plays a role in all of this too. So, and what's the guy, the former Green Beret? I'm gonna lose his name. We just talked about him just talked about him.
He does a lot of the interviewing and the character building. Yep, we know who we're talking about.
So it's this entire staff working together, and I think the biggest thing that I pulled out of the episode, that, and I'm sure this is probably goes on each year, but it was just interesting to see when they were going back and forth, the intensity that Ballard had. It just seems different. It seems like there's a sense of urgency. Like the Colts need to come away from this draft with players that are going to have a high impact, whether it's on offense or on defense. It doesn't matter. Whoever they draft and whoever they get on this team, they've got to have an impact and they've got to be ready to go right away.
It is our job to be right.
Exactly. They know that they've got the quarterback, they've got the running back, they've got the defensive tackle, the linebacker, the two cornerbacks. They've got a budding star at wide receiver. This team isn't far away. I
don't have a single question about quarterback this year like I had the last two.
No, absolutely not. And by the way, if you didn't watch Matt Ryan on Pat McAfee's show, go ahead and watch that. Phenomenal interview. They're not far away, and they need to hit on these picks. They need to get guys that are going to come in, contribute, and contribute at a high level.
Yeah,
and I think with the depth of this draft, they can absolutely do that. But the Colts, there's a different sense of urgency than I've seen before from this team right now.
I also like Chris's quote, and there's more to what he said here. I'm paraphrasing, but basically, those who perform make the team. That was in regards to a workout at the Colts facility with a bunch of guys. Those who perform make the team. He said, once you're in the building, it's an even playing field. And I think that's an incredible message to the young guys. I think it's an incredible mindset to have as a GM as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's they don't care where you're drafted. If you can come in and you can play, it doesn't matter where you were drafted. It doesn't matter how much you get paid. Whoever plays the best, that's who's going to play. And I think that's a good mindset to have. It instills confidence in the young guys that when they come in the building, if they work their ass off and if they perform, they're gonna see playing time on the field. They're gonna see a big role with this team. So again, Ballard always wants to create competition. He always wants to get the best 53 guys on that roster, the best 22 players out there at one time. So I don't think that's going to change, and I think that's what they're going to look for here in the draft. The Colts are definitely going to look at need positions, wide receiver, tight end, et cetera, et cetera. But again, if there's an outstanding talent there that's not at one of those maybe top positions of need, they're still going to take that player.
Something else I noticed early during the Senior Bowl, Porsche, Jiminy Christmas. Little Bubba Ventrone appearance. Doesn't talk. Brief camera appearance. I thought maybe it was just going to be one brief. I was like, there's Bubba. I just found that interesting because most of these guys that make the team, like we've talked about a million times, you were just talking about, they are going to have to be able to play special teams, and it just makes sense for him to be there. I just never thought about, you know what I mean? And then I see him, I'm like, well, hell, that makes sense that Bubba's there. You know what I mean? He should get some input. He's going to be using most of these guys.
Right.
I just found that I don't know. It just like, a chain all connected, like in my brain, like, that makes sense. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
absolutely. He's there scouting how they would fit on the Colts special
Yeah.
teams, especially these guys that they're going to be drafting in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round that need to contribute on special teams if they're going to make the Colts final roster.
Anything else on with the next pick? That was longer than we usually go, but I watched it. I took notes, and I think it was the best episode this year.
Definitely a very good episode, and I'm excited to see because the next episode is going to be showing inside the draft room of the draft picks, what went into
always
it.
Awesome.
That's always the best episode of the year.
All right, news around the league. The Jaguars and offensive tackle Cam Robinson agreed to a 3-year, $54 million extension. Good for him.
That basically takes the Jaguars out of the running for an offensive tackle early on. So they've got Cam Robinson on one side. I think they got a rookie from Stanford on the other side from last year. So they're set at tackle.
And the Broncos and running back Melvin Gordon, I don't know why, but the Broncos and running back Melvin Gordon agreed to a 1-year, $5 million deal. That's why $5 million.
I mean, he had 900 yards and 8 touchdowns for him last year, so he played pretty well.
So bad that you just don't recognize that. I feel like, you know what I mean. That's got to be it because they were just bad.
Russell Wilson changes a lot of things.
Russell Wilson changes a lot of things. People forget he's now a Denver Bronco. Unbelievable, by the way, that he's a Denver Bronco. Andrew, well, people also forget. There's a lot of people who listen to the show. I feel comfortable saying that these days. A lot of people. But a lot of people need to go follow at a Colts podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And say hi, say hello. We're about to get more active, I think, this summer on social media due to the assistance of some interns, unpaid interns. Legally, they're unpaid. But also make sure to go check out Last Chance before the draft starts, the Indie Draft Guide. $1 off when you use the promo code DRAFT. It's over 10% off. I don't remember the exact math because I don't remember the exact price, but I know it's $1 off.
It's $10, so you get $1 off, about 10%.
About $5.30.
About $5.30. Get the Indie Draft Guide, and that way, when you're watching the draft this weekend and you're not sure who the Colts picked, go into the Draft Guide, read up a short scouting report about them and how they fit with the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be a great resource for you this weekend.
Also, just hop into the live stream Friday to watch the draft with us. I may or may not, maybe illegal, maybe not illegally, put the draft screen up on the screen. I'm going to be, hopefully, under the influence of some legal prescription medications to help me get through my wisdom tooth pain. So who knows what I'll do? Should be a good time.
Hopefully he doesn't mess up the live stream, but I
will not mess up the live stream, but I might add some goofy shit. We never know.
We're going to have me. We're going to have Stats Matt. Brandon will be there. He just won't be talking. We'll have some other guests that join in and out of the live stream. Come hang out and hear our analysis. It's going to be a good time.
We got to be honest, Andrew. I'm probably going to at least make a visual appearance, and I may try to speak.
You'll try to speak, but it won't go well.
It's just what I do. But hey, big weekend, draft weekend. Can't wait to talk to you guys on Friday. Hey, and if you're a avid follower, if you're commenting, who knows? Maybe we shoot you a link and you join and hang out with us as well. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Go Colts.
Go Colts. And we're replaying it because I forgot how things work. Production expert. This is why I need a person. I'm the talent. I'm the producer. Need all the things. Go Colts.
Go Colts.
Let this moment become a cherished memory. And then remember, a legacy is only worthwhile when there is a future to fuel. God bless you and God bless football.